Good evening, everybody. My name is Don Devaney. Welcome to the ArtSpeaks evening. We have our Mattia Valley Jazz Combo here playing for you as you came in tonight. And they're going to play one more special arrangement for you. Let's give them all a hand. And they're going to play for you a Dizzy Gillespie great, A Night in Tunisia.
My name is Mark Duker, and I am very proud to serve as the Fine Arts Department Chair at Waubonsie Valley High School, and I also get to serve on the board for ArtSpeaks. And I want to welcome you this evening on behalf of the entire board. I do want to ask the board members if they would give a wave to the crowd. You may want to speak to one of us, ask us a question, just have a conversation after the evening. I wanted you to know who those people are, and we welcome those conversations, and we can talk some about your experiences with the arts and any ideas you may have to help us get the good word out about ArtSpeaks. We have three main components to our presentation this evening, in addition to our student musicians, who are something that we try to do at each presentation. We try to have some student work, we try to have visual art, we try to have music. Sometimes we're able to have both of those things and make sure that our focus is on our students and what they are doing in their experiences. So we appreciate the Mattia guys coming out and sharing that with us tonight. The rest of our evening, like I said, is going to be split up into three parts. First, we have a student panel who I'm going to ask to come on up and get seated if you guys would. And we're going to talk a little bit with these students about their experiences and hear straight from them what their experiences in the arts have meant to them and how it has helped prepare them for life after high school and really the rest of life. Second, this evening, we're going to have Chip Staley, who many of you know is the recently retired Fine Arts Department Chair at Neuqua Valley High School, but is also the chair of ArtSpeaks. And he has a TEDx presentation that he's going to be sharing with us with some really interesting information and just a neat viewpoint about some of the amazing things that can happen with memory and music. And I will save his tagline for him because I think it's great. And then third, we're very excited to welcome Ellie Rose, who is a visual artist and does some amazing research and work with elderly patients primarily. And I have watched multiple videos and I think the work is tremendous. And she's going to share some of her work. She was also in some of our schools today working with our students directly. So we're really thrilled to have her here and talking with you about her work and her research and how she sees the arts impacting lives as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our student panelists. I'm just going to introduce them first, audience right to left. So first we have from Mattia Valley, Abby Donaldson. From Neuqua, Jill O'Brien. From Mattia, Sushmitha Suresh, sorry, but she goes by Sushi, so for now on it will be Sushi. And Leah Williams from Waubonsie Valley High School. And I don't know that we had an all-female cast this evening, but that's fantastic. So let me ask them just kind of, first of all, we'll start with Abby. Abby, if you could just tell us a little bit about your involvement in the arts and anything that you think is a significant lesson or experience or skill that you've gotten from that time in the arts.
Okay. Well, I'm a senior, so I've been in the arts program for 4 years. Although my freshman year, last year and this year I did visual arts. My sophomore year I did choir. I think my involvement in the arts has definitely given me some critical thinking skills. They've kind of taught me how to work through problems and create something that was in my head and put it on paper and kind of work over bumps in the road, even for things that I didn't expect to happen. And sometimes that meant really great success, and sometimes it meant really great learning. And I think that's probably the best thing I've gotten from the arts program. But
Thanks. Jill?
I'm Jill. I'm a senior. I have been playing trumpet in the band since 5th grade. I've been singing since the 4th. I have been involved in theater since my freshman year. I am on my 3rd production that I have helped direct. The arts, my involvement in the arts has made me just a better person. It has taught me a lot of really important just social skills. It has taught me like how to deal with all different kinds of people, how to, like Abby said, like think critically, think on my feet when I'm in certain situations. It's taught me how to be a more patient person, to just stop and think of ways to deal with certain problems that come my way. So my participation in the arts in these 3 really just like important facets to me have just made me a better person and a more like well-rounded and more like social and critically thinking person.
Sushi?
All right. Well, I've been singing since the 4th grade. I did extracurricular choirs such as Young Naperville Singers and also just curricular choirs. I think also with like theater and stuff, I've been doing theater production since like forever. I can't even remember when. But it's just been incredible to be parts of the arts program just because it teaches you an incredible amount of discipline, hard work, and determination. I definitely would not have the work ethic I have if it weren't for the arts and the motivation it gives you. Also just the ability to collaborate with a lot of other people that love to do the things you do, which is a huge part of it. I think that I got to work with such amazing people, and I'm hopefully going to continue to be able to do that. And it's just the hard work you learn from it, and just having something that you're really passionate about, which is something that I really took away from it, that you could love something so much that you can put everything you have into it and still have the most fun doing it.
Fantastic. Leah?
I've been doing the fine arts since I was very young. I started playing piano when I was 3, but I formally became involved in the arts in this district when I picked up clarinet in 5th grade. And since then, I've continued band, and this year now I play bass clarinet, and I've also picked up baritone sax for jazz, and I've also learned how to just pick up different instruments along the way. One thing that the arts has taught me the most, along with a form of what Sushi said, is just that with time management, because since I'm involved in about 6 different music activities at Waubonsie currently, it's very important to me that I have to balance those extracurricular activities with, of course, the homework to keep my grades up and continuing being a successful high school student.
Fantastic. So we're going to start with Jill for round 2. If you would each just tell us what your plans are after high school. You're all college bound. Tell us where you're going to be going, what you will be studying, and then talk about how you think your time in the fine arts helped you prepare for that process and prepare for college.
Well, I will be attending Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa in the fall of 2016. I will be studying journalism and psychology. I guess the biggest thing that my participation in the arts has taught me going into college has taught me how to be a more, like what Sushi said, a more disciplined person. Like as going into journalism and like working as a journalist, we work on like very specific deadlines, which is very similar to like what we do in like band or choir or theater. We work on our deadlines in the sense that we work up to our concert or our opening night. As a journalist, you chase your story for like as long as you can. And in band or in whatever fine arts you're involved in, you chase what you're going for. You chase the perfect balance or blend or note length or phrase length. You chase all of these components that come into your cohesive whole. And without them, you don't have your article, you don't have your performance, you don't have your piece that you can give to the public, to the community. So going into college, thinking of my participation in arts and being a journalist and working and being very like disciplined in my time management, in how I approach the different things that I'm going to be writing about, all the different content that I'll be working with. I guess that said, 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 I gu going into working with different magazines and the newspaper, working with all this like different content is going to be really, really hard because it's going to be all really new for me. But having participated in the arts and thinking about time management and discipline and deadlines and determination in getting my final product out in these publications is going to be, it's not going to be that hard of a transition if I have those skills out there.
That's true. Sushi, how about you?
Well, next fall I will be at Indiana University doing a major in management information systems with a triple minor in music, theater, and journalism. And well, I think all four of the things I want to study basically have one thing in common, and it's the communication aspect that I feel like I definitely learned from my time in the arts. Something that you have to do as a musician and even as like an artist in general is communicate with this universal language, and something that had helped in the admissions process when writing these essays, when creating these like interviews, is just being able to articulate ourselves. And I think that really comes with being able to express yourself in so many different dimensions. And I feel like the arts program at Mattia Valley and just in the district in general has really given that to me. And just being able to, again, with the discipline, with the hard work, and just being able to have so many outlets of expression at the same time, and just pursuing what we want to do.
So before Leah answers, I have to ask, how long did they tell you it would take for a major and 3 minors? Did they say 4 years?
Yeah, but I'm hoping to finish my master's in management information systems, which they have a program at IU for 5 years. So I'll have more time.
Let us know how that timeline
I
works.
will.
I'm very curious about that. Leah,
I will be attending Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas in the fall, and I will be majoring in entrepreneurial management and Spanish. With that being said, the arts has prepared me for my college major as far as leadership, because in the different activities that I do, whether it be in band or whether it's the different lessons that we do in choir, it's very important that if need to, you know how to lead people. And also with needing to lead people, you also need to know when to step back and when you need to follow. So I know as a freshman on a college campus, there will be times where I might have to help my peers and be a leader and teach them things, but there will be other times I know that people that are more wiser than me will have that opportunity to also teach me things too. So that's what the arts has taught me.
Great. Abby, how about you?
Okay, next year I'll be attending St. Anselm College. It's in Manchester, New Hampshire. And I plan on studying criminal justice and a minor in some sort of language or communication. I think the arts has probably prepared me best for this by giving me different ways to resolve problems. I say this because if, like, just the major I want to go into, it's not very cut and paste. There's a lot of working around specific situations you have to find out or figure out along the way. And I think that working in the arts has really given me experience, be it in a 2D medium like pen and ink. If you spill a giant blob of black ink on a page that you've been working on for months, you're not going to just give up and tear it all apart. You're going to figure out either to work it into the piece or to maybe dot white in it so that it doesn't look like a big mistake. And you can sort of figure out ways to come up with resolutions to problems that you didn't even think could arise. And I think that's a really big aspect of the arts that I've been given.
That's great. So one more question for the panel. And you've all hit on a lot of great things. And this may almost seem a little bit redundant. But what I'm curious about, we love that the arts are helping students reach their goals. We love that they're getting them through high school successfully, and we love that this is a big reason why they're getting into the colleges of their choice and having success through that admissions process. But I will just tell you, me personally, the biggest takeaway that I see for it is how the arts develop just our students as people and just turn them into the kind of people who are going to live happy lives and successful lives. So my question, starting with Sushi, would just be, how would you say your involvement in the arts have just helped shape you as a person heading out, and really you guys are practically officially adults at this point. So how do you think that has impacted just you as a person looking forward to the rest of your life?
I think something that the arts program has really taught me is just being myself is all I can do. And if I put everything I have into it, I think that's definitely what I learned at Mattia Valley. Like, just I'm allowed to have so much passion for this one thing and just use it as my outlet of communication. Again, it's that universal language where I can just make someone feel what I feel. And I think that's what shaped me as a person, being able to communicate and connect with so many different people. It really gets you to be a better person, a better socializer, I guess. And also just it taught me how to be like a well-rounded student, because you can't just be that one music kid. You have to be the academic and also the just a leader. And I think that's what it really shaped me into, someone that can lead yet follow, just like she said. And then also just being passionate about something. And I think that's something I can take with me for the rest of my life, just knowing that if I put 100% in, I'm going to get 100% out.
Fantastic. Leah?
One thing that music at Wabanzi has definitely taught me was how to socialize. With that being said, as a sophomore, I don't want to say I was reserved, but I was definitely I was definitely more shy than I am now. And part of that was because I decided to join marching band my junior year, which was a little bit of peer pressure, but healthy peer pressure, because I thought that was a great step to take in my high school career. So when I was in marching band, I was thrown into this brand new family of all these people who were so excited to do this one thing. And then my since I play bass clarinet for a marching band, my section was so accepting, and they're like, we're all gonna play clarinet, it's gonna be awesome. So the fact that I saw them be so accepting to me led me for the next year to be a section leader for the bass clarinets, and also I was able to give that same welcoming feeling to other people. Especially I was focusing on making sure that freshmen and new marchers felt included as much as I did my junior year, just because it is kind of scary going into a new organization and then just being accepted by all these new people, and it's kind of overwhelming. But with that, I'm able to interact with different groups of people now. I can speak at forums like this and just talk in front of everybody, because now that's what I'm used to.
Right, and I've known Leah since the 6th grade, and I asked her to come tonight because I'm as proud of her as I am of anybody in our senior class, because 2 years ago, I'm not sure you would have even spoken, maybe to me, let alone to the entire group. And I can just attest that watching her grow her junior year and turn into, I don't know if mom and dad agree, but maybe not a different person, but letting us see a much more of her has been really fantastic. So I'm glad that's your take as well. I completely agree. Abby?
So similarly, I had an experience my sophomore year where I did not do visual arts. I did my choir year. And not that the choir program was bad for me. I just also learned that I am a very anxious person who's in a lot of higher advanced classes. And when I don't have that outlet of art, it gets very obvious that I'm a very anxious person. And so through that year, I kind of experienced what I like to call art withdrawal. And I don't think I smiled for that entire year. No, that's an exaggeration, but not as much as I do now. And it really kind of taught me how to be a calm person. I can get through pretty much any issue now, as long as I can go home and doodle or like sketch or work on a project that really says how I'm feeling. It's taught me how to be a person who can get through anything, and it's gotten me to a point where I've become a lot more resilient than I used to be, just by realizing what helps calm me down in life. And I think that's something that everyone needs to work through, is their own like stress, like ways to handle stress. And that's really what I've found this to be. It's a passion, it's communication, and it's a stress reliever for me. And I think that's kind of how it's shaped me as a person. I'm much chiller now than I used to be.
Excellent. Speaking of chill, Jill?
I think the arts has shaped me into the person that I am today, in the sense that I am able to see the world from so many different perspectives. Like going through my day, I go to band, and then I go to musical, and then I'll write at like some point in the day. In the morning, I'm playing my trumpet, and I'm playing Maria from West Side Story, and I'm I'm running through the streets of New York singing about I just met a girl named Maria, and then I'm in the afternoon, I'm helping Millie Dillmount navigate the streets of New York, and they're helping direct the early modern Millie. And then I go to a newspaper and I'm taking photographs of food for a restaurant that I just reviewed, and I'm interviewing the winners of a recent marketing competition. So I'm able to see different facets of my community and my world that I wouldn't be able to see if I wasn't involved in all of these like different arts that I am at school. Being in all of these groups helps me just see things from different perspectives and learn from different like people and mediums, and it's not something that a lot of people can say, that they can really see the world in such a holistic way that an art student can, and I'm really grateful for that.
We are all grateful that we get to provide that too. Before I thank the four of them, I just wanted to elaborate on a couple of things. These students are incredibly involved artists, but I'm curious, how many of you, just show of hands, how many of you take at least one AP or honors class? Have any of you been involved with clubs, sports, something non-fine arts related? Of course. So our theory is that the arts are an essential part of an education. They're not an all-consuming part. They're just an essential part. The students we have in our programs represent the entire school, represent the entire culture, represent everyone who is there. And what ArtSpeaks is trying to do is make sure that it's never forgotten that that is an integral part of what we're doing with these children to make them whole people and send them out into the world. These are four tremendous examples of some amazing seniors we will have going out into the world. You'll note we intentionally did not choose students who were going into specifically fine arts related fields. Our mission is not to send professional artists and professional musicians out into the world. Our mission is to send incredible, well-rounded, passionate people who know how to work and know how to pursue something, and these four are a tremendous example of that. So please join me in thanking them for being on our panel this evening.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce Chip Staley. Chip Staley is the founder of ArtSpeaks, former Fine Arts Department Chair at Neuqua Valley High School, and former Fine Arts Department Chair at Waubonsie Valley High School. Beginning in the mid-1980s, Chip's foresight and forethought was the catalyst to the music and art programs of District 204, of which we now so richly enjoy. Chip has always urged the students and staff around him to explore the best they could become, as though to always ask, how good can you really be? This has allowed countless numbers of students and staff to have a musical imprint left in their memory. Let's now welcome Chip to the ArtSpeaks speaker series as he provides some thoughts about musical imprinting with his talk, What Will Be on Your Playlist? Chip Staley.
Thank you, Mr. Loff. Simon Rattle believes that music is our birthright. That should be no surprise to you. Simon Rattle is the principal conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic. What might be a surprise, though, is that, 95% of all Americans believe that music is part of a comprehensive education, and 93% of Americans believe that music should be included in every school in the country. And 4 out of 5 Americans believe that music should be mandated for every child in the United States. The fact that the overwhelming majority of Americans believe that music is important doesn't necessarily translate into public policy. For example, the vast majority of Americans believe that climate change is real and dangerous, yet we've not yet instituted policies to substantially address the problem. My earliest memories are of sitting alone, unsupervised, in front of the family stereo, listening to Prokofiev and Tchaikovsky, because that's what was in the bin. Technically, I wasn't allowed to operate this thing, but I figured out how to lift delicately the plastic tone arm and to gently drop it onto the vinyl disc while manipulating the volume so as not to disturb anybody in my family. I'd like to think I got away with it. It could be that they saw how much I enjoyed it, how much I enjoyed the technicolor sounds that were coming out of the speakers. I could see the story develop. I could see myself in the story. I became the boy of the music. That's the time in front of those speakers that made me realize how much I loved music and how much I enjoyed being a part of it and making it part of my life. And it planted the seed that would develop into a career as a music educator. I've loved the fact that I've taught in this district for 30 years. You can see the results of the work of great educators in this district, where the students leave feeling really good about their education and feeling like music and art being a part of their lives is something that they want to continue throughout adulthood. I love the fact that art withdrawal happens to our students. It's a beautiful thing. We've been able to develop comprehensive and outstanding nationally recognized programs in this community because the people in this community want what's best for kids. During our last recession, what's best for kids is what really drove us to do more with less and pull together to try to sustain ourselves during really tough financial times. We really kept what's best for students in the center, but like many places, once finances are extremely scarce, programs begin to be treated differently, starving one to feed another, and that what's best for kids sometimes gets squeezed out. Ultimately, in this country, the program that is starved most often in financial rough times is music. And in our district, that was no exception. There was a substantial targeted cut to the music program in 2010. Now, music educators in this district were shocked. We were caught flat-footed because we knew that this community felt like, just like the rest of the country, that music was important. So we were stunned. We weren't quite sure what to make of it. Well, it wasn't one of those decisions that was made with any animosity. It was made with the idea that music is important, but not essential. So it became the quest of a grassroots organization called ArtSpeaks to change the paradigm for everyone in this community that the arts are not just important, the arts are essential. So what we set out to do is to bring the message of the arts are part of a comprehensive education, an essential part. And also, the arts provide competitive edge for students. We borrowed from the school board goals, the 21st century skills that they believed were very important. And the 4 C's of communication, collaboration, creative thinking, and critical thinking. Those 4 areas we felt we could show without any hesitation were nurtured through the arts. We brought in speakers like we did today who had background in the arts, but weren't necessarily making a career of being in the arts, to show parents who were nervous about their kids, which you'll hear a little bit later from Ellie, are nervous about their kids making a living, don't really want to hear about how the arts are what they want to go into. So we felt we could help people understand that no matter what they chose to do as a profession, that the arts would be helpful to them. So lawyers, a professor from Harvard, an engineer, a Google exec, we brought in people who basically could point to how the arts influenced their thinking and made them have a leg up in their selected area of expertise. We found a lot of information about research on music and the brain from our neighbors at Northwestern University. Nina Kraus, the head of neuroscience department, and her team have done extensive research on the impact of music on the brains of children. As the brains are developing, it's easy to see where there are connections being made and where there are no connections being made. And they were able to identify in the brain the pathways that music forged through the brain. One of the most compelling things that they found out is that those kids coming from poverty who maybe had a deficit in spoken word at home, which is statistically what they found, when they got to school, they could make up that deficit by getting 2 years of instrumental music training. After 2 years, they were able to distinguish spoken word much better, and they were able to function at a much higher level in the classroom. Students who are involved in music are also able to filter out noise that interferes with important information that they're supposed to get in the classroom. Turnaround Arts is a program started by the government to address the issues in the lowest performing schools in our country, the bottom 5%. And they target specific schools where they can partner with an artist, go into the schools and train veteran staff how to infuse the arts into the curriculum to make it more engaging, more relevant, and to help students retain information much better. And of course, you can see on the screen that the statistics from their test-taking skills show that they are much more capable as readers and as people figuring out math. We've brought in speakers in this very room from Northwestern University and the University of Illinois to talk about the admission process that they go through. So we brought in the assistant director of admissions at both of those schools, and what they told our kids is if you profile somebody who is perfect score ACT, straight A's in school, against a student who's not quite perfect score ACT, not quite perfect straight A's in school, who's well-grounded in the arts, is consistently involved in the arts, they every single time will go for the student with the background in the arts over somebody who has never gotten anything wrong. And the reason they say that is they find that people who are involved in the arts are much more resilient when they get to college and are more likely to stay in college. ArtSpeaks feels like we've gotten our message out pretty well. You heard Mr. Duker talk the same message. All of our board members feel very strongly that the arts are an essential component of an education. And we feel like this community really still believes and continues to work towards what's best for kids. So we have a moment to think, step back a minute. We're not in crisis. And we're looking at all the testing that our kids are going through, and we're wondering, we have assigned a value to music and to art and to dance and to drama that are connected to a test score. And maybe we're buying into this whole test rage. And maybe we need to find other avenues to express the value of the arts in a student's education. Maybe what we need to do is think a little bit more about the fact that students who are basically taking an AP class as a ticket to a particular future aren't served as well as those who take the coursework leading to the AP class. We start to think that driven by scores is not necessarily the best thing for kids, and maybe it's causing them a great deal of stress. Maybe the value of music is beyond all those things we've said, and maybe we need to address those. Maybe we need to address the fact that music can connect us to everyone we know, can connect us to the fact that learning can be fun, and connect us to who we are. I know that when I'm working with special needs students in my special needs drumming circle at Turning Point, and I used to do it at Nequa, I had nonverbal students whose only opportunity to create a connection with an adult happened in that circle because they could initiate it and they could respond to it in a way that they couldn't possibly do it in the classroom. And you can see by the looks on their faces that when that happens, when they can make a connection with their peers and with others through the medium of music, that they're smiling, that it's joyful, that it's productive, and it's meaningful. I know that every time a child engages in music, they are on a journey of going from where they can't to where they can. And that journey is one that students really respond to in a very positive way. They can see the relevance of it, and they can see that it makes a difference in their lives. And it makes a difference when they can play with other people. This is an important part of being human, and it's something that's easy to see outside of a testing bubble. When I take students all over the world and I give them an opportunity to perform for audiences that don't speak English, we have no trouble communicating our hearts and our souls to them. And we make connections with each other that we never could if we weren't involved in music. I think every child deserves an opportunity to understand that they are a unique person, that they have needs that are different than other people, that they can be joyful in their learning, that they can actually be connected to everyone in their orbit. And I think probably the most important thing that I hope for our students when they go through a curriculum is that they can imagine a future that they're creating, not one that's created for them. My wife, Lynn, sitting over there, has been a volunteer for in-home senior respite for the last 12 years. And she discovered this magical connection between music and memory. She was going in, as the name of the group implies, and providing respite time for the 24/7 caregiver for people who were suffering from cognitive impairment. Most often it was Alzheimer's, and in both these cases, that's what Alzheimer's disease, and that's in both of these cases. So she would provide that time accompanying these individuals, being a companion to these individuals, so the caregiver could be out of the house for 3 hours once a week. Her first companion was Al, and she found out Al liked jazz. So she brought a boombox. Everybody remember what that is? And she brought a bunch of big band CDs. Because Al couldn't say any words, he was in the latter stages of Alzheimer's. If he went into a different room from wherever he was, he would immediately become confused. And if he went outside, he might be lost forever. So it was absolutely imperative that he was accompanied at all times. So she knew she needed music to pass the time. Well, the minute that she put String of Pearls on, Al started to sing. And he started to scat sing. And he was good. So she went to the next tune, In the Mood. He's really good. She was impressed. So she said to Al, "You're really good at this." "Well, I should be. I used to play jazz. I used to meet my friend Sherman Jack in the city, and we play jazz every weekend." Imagine his wife's surprise when she got home to find out that he lit up and talked about his past, because there was never anything from him at any other time. Well, she had her next companion, and she learned from that, Chuck. So she brought the same boombox and found out Chuck liked Hank Williams, and he was in the latter stages of Alzheimer's, just like Al. And so she put Hank Williams on there, and right away, Hey Good Lookin' set him off, and he started singing the words to the Hank Williams tunes. Since she had checked the entire anthology of Hank Williams tunes from the library, they went through the entire anthology. He knew all the tunes. Again, she's really impressed, because here's a guy who can't tell you what he wants for breakfast. He can't tell you if he's thirsty and needs a drink of water, but he knows all the lyrics to every Hank Williams tunes. That's impressive. And she said that. "Chuck, that's impressive. You know all the words." And he said, "Well, I used to get in my car, roll down all the windows, and drive down Lakeshore Drive. I'd turn the radio up as loud as it would go, and I'd sing along with Hank Williams. That's how I learned all the tunes." Really? So as they packed up, as she packed up and she was ready to leave, he said, I'll make a hillbilly out of you yet. So you can imagine in our family, those stories that are 12 years old now, are, that's a lot of fun to have that as part of your family history. Al and Chuck are legendary in our history. And we thought that's unusual. That probably is a rare occurrence, and maybe it's just Lynn is really good with people. She can bring people out of their illness. And, well, we found out that's not exactly true. She is a good person, but it's music that brought them out. And we know that if you go to YouTube and you type in Henry response to music, you'll see a reaction from Henry. The first time he hears jazz going from no response to being able to converse with his caregivers. It literally makes him alive inside, which is the name of a documentary which chronicles the work of Dan Cohen, a social worker who discovered that every single patient of Alzheimer's has a playlist. And if you can tap into that playlist, you can bring them to who they are. Every one of us has a playlist. As a matter of fact, it's remarkable in Alzheimer's patients that when they've been studying the disease, they've found an area that stores musical memory that is the very last area of the brain to die. The very last area. So it's pretty much guaranteed if you're still alive, you have musical memory. Tapping into that is just an amazing thing. I've had a great life that has involved a free education with music at every step of the way. Like Simon Rattle, I believe that music is our birthright. I have been creating a playlist that's exhaustive, extensive, comprehensive, and maybe the only thing sometime in my life that provides an avenue that can reach who I am. Think about what's going to be on your playlist. What music will bring you up and out and back to who you are? Every child deserves to have their birthright honored. Every child deserves music from the moment they enter public school and every step of the way. They need enriched musical experiences because they are building the foundation for the playlists of their lives. And you know that area of the brain? I was talking to some of the brain researchers when I was at Cornell College to do a TED Talk, and I asked them about that. I said, is it true? Because I want to make sure I get my facts right. Is musical memory the last thing to go in Alzheimer's disease? And they said, yes, absolutely. And they said, but there's so much we don't know about the brain. We don't know what we don't know. Well, I'm not a brain expert, but let me tell you this. I suspect that Nina Kraus and her crew have stumbled onto something that's much greater than just music, because music is entwined with language. And I think that area in the brain that's preserved for music, we only know that much, but I think we're going to find out that movement and dance, that expressing other emotions than the ones you're feeling through drama, that the ability to visually explain yourself is wrapped up in that same area of the brain. And I think when decision makers in a school system have to make tough decisions, they need to take a cue from our bodies and protect the arts. Thank you.
Well, this is Ellie Rose, and she is the co-founder and CEO of Gerostart, of which the mission is enriching lives through creative living, learning, and enlightenment as we age. Gerostart strives to continue developing new models and methods of care to expand the possibilities for the people they serve and pave the way for integrating non-medical approaches in dementia care. They help people age more creatively. Ellie has combined her training in art with healthcare education, and we are thrilled to have her here to share her presentation titled, I Am Happy and Successful Because of My Visual Arts Education. Please welcome Ellie Rose.
Mic and everything. So yes, my name is Ellie Rose. I am a product of art education, a very happy one. When I was in my high school years, I was telling many students today in my visits that my father never wanted me to major in the arts. He thought it was something really cute that I used to do, and that I needed to do something more substantial, and I needed to make money. It was very important to him that I was successful, and successful meant making money. So when I started thinking about what I wanted to do for school, I just began drawing. These are some sketches that I did in high school, and it's just something that I was always good at, but it wasn't something that I knew that I could succeed at. I decided to stay committed, and I was committed to my fine arts, and I applied for college. I was born right in this area in St. Charles, Illinois, moved up to Wisconsin, and ended up getting a full tuition scholarship to NIU, where I decided to major in art education. Because fine arts wasn't good enough, I had to be an art educator. That held some sort of substantial weight to it. So I started majoring in art ed, and as I got going, I just wasn't happy. I wasn't able to apply my skills like I was in high school. I had this great supportive energy in high school. I had great professors. I had 5 art teachers in my high school. I was in private schools and moved to public schools just to get a better art education. And I just didn't find that support where I was at. I began thinking about ways that I could apply the education that I had. So I got out of art education and looked into nursing. Complete shift. My father was happy, but I was not. I ended up studying abroad and got really connected to my art skills and what it meant to be an artist. I committed myself to painting. I'm the student that they say, oh, we're not educating students to move on to be artists. But I needed somebody to educate me and to push me to be an artist. I would later find out that it was those art skills that helped set me apart from everybody else. So I stayed committed and finished my bachelor's degree in fine art. Now what? Now I still was at that same point. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And so I went to visit this woman. This woman is my grandmother. Her name is Ruth. She was living with Alzheimer's for 14 years, which is a very long time to live with Alzheimer's. And she was unable to communicate with me. And I would just hold her hand, and she would squeeze it, and we shared glances, and I just knew nothing about what Alzheimer's was, except that they can't remember anything. There was times I remember visiting her in her assisted living, and she would hold my hand, and she would look at me, and she would say, you gotta get me out of here. You gotta get me out of here. And I kept just breaking my heart. Well, I can't. You're not safe. I can't do that for you. And then I would leave and come back. But this woman, this powerful woman, this very prestigious woman who created a beautiful family, who was intelligent, loved fashion, loved to cook, loved to have us all over, lived in the same community that all of you live in. And I watched her, and I just could not believe what was happening to her. And nobody knew anything about it. They're like, yes, this is what happens. This is what happens as we age. Now, my grandmother was resilient, very resilient. She escaped from that assisted living. We weren't going to get her out, so she escaped from the assisted living. She was missing for 3 days in the cold, cold October in Wisconsin. A dog and a police officer found her 3 days later. She had burrowed and buried herself into the ground to keep warm, this resilient woman. They thought she had passed, and then they heard her voice. They brought her to the hospital. We walked in. We said, Graham, where have you been? I don't know. She didn't know where she had been, but she was smiling. And I just kept thinking, like, we have no idea what's going on in her mind. Nobody's asking her. Nobody's trying other ways of communicating. All we can say is she does not fit, and she doesn't remember what we are expecting her to remember. And I started to think about expectations. What do people expect out of me because I'm an artist? What do people not expect out of me? What do people expect out of my grandmother? And now that she has Alzheimer's, what do people not expect out of her? You know, when do we hit that point? When do we transition to being an elder? You know, what age is it? Do you have that birthday and then you're like, all right, it's official. I am an elder. It doesn't happen. And so if we started to look at things as if we were all aging, that I'm aging and you're aging, what would it mean if people could see the things that I could see as an artist? And how could I change the way people were looking at things? How could I be the artist in the middle of a healthcare system that's helping people see the way that we're treating people, caring for people, and what the arts can do to bring out the people that are inside? This beautiful woman ended up in a nursing home after she escaped, because that's what the law said. She now needed to be in a locked building, because now she's an even bigger danger to society. So she lived out the remainder of her years in a very lovely nursing home, and she waited. She waited daily for us to visit. She waited daily for somebody to take her to the bathroom. She waited daily to eat. She waited. She waited there to die. And when I was reaching the end of my college years, I remember going to visit her and just sitting with her and just feeling this emotion, yet we weren't talking. And there was just something so powerful about that, and nobody was talking about it. Like, how are we not talking about this? So I started just to play with her. I was like, well, let's just do things that don't involve talking. Why do I, instead of saying, do you remember what you had for breakfast today, why don't I just hang out with her? So I brought the piano over. She put her hands on the piano and she started playing. I brought paint over. I didn't know what we were going to paint. She didn't know either, but we painted together. She started talking to me. She wouldn't talk to anybody else, but she would talk to me. And I would whisper in her ear, I love you, Graham. And she would smile and close her eyes, and she would just feel her skin. This beautiful Irish skin she had, she would feel it. And we would go outside and she would feel the wind. But that's not what the medical profession was looking at. So I made a commitment to myself that I needed to figure out what the connection was. If the medical field wasn't looking at it, no other field was really looking at it. What was me, this little old artist? What was I going to do? So I was struggling at that time in a job. I was a wedding planner and catering director, working long, long hours. And I just got so burnt out, and I decided to go to Google. And I Googled arts and dementia. I found this crazy job in Milwaukee called a person-centered care specialist. I had never heard of one of those, and I bet you haven't either. It's not a common thing, but it's not something my parents ever dreamed that I would be applying for. But it had things in the description that fit me. So they had this program called Art Care. Wow, art and care together? That seemed interesting. They had things about leadership and about business and about activity planning. Those were things that I could do. When I was going through high school and going through college, I took many different courses. You know, I was in nursing. I actually was in occupational therapy for a moment, art ed, art therapy, adaptive art, integrative art, you name it, I had tried it. But this whole, a bunch of things that I was majoring in gave me all the skills to apply for this job. So I applied. And so this healthcare system hired an artist. They put me right in the middle of a program, and they said, what do you think? So they brought in somebody from the outside, and my critical thinking skills, all of these things that the students were talking about today, how I could look at things differently, the discipline that I had to try and make something work, to figure this out, and really my skills in building relationships. Just like what Chip was saying, how do we connect to each other? And why is that important? And how do we find meaning? So as I began working, I learned about many different arts and dementia programs. I worked with the Alzheimer's Association with a Memories in the Making program. They have all kinds of different programs that exist that just help people sit in front of a piece of paper and do something different. However, the critical part of me that you are all learning in your high school years here at the schools, it wasn't good enough for me. If we put a piece of paper in front of somebody, just like you don't know what to draw. How do we dig down deep inside of ourselves and think about what is it that I want to draw? Should I draw something in front of me? Do I draw something that I dream about? What is it that I'm drawing about? So I began asking questions. I talked to people with all different kinds of dementia. Alzheimer's is just one. That affects just our memory. There's dementias that affect our language, that affect our ability to turn around. As it progresses, we see all kinds of different symptoms and behaviors, and I started to look at them as assets. When I watched somebody paint who wasn't able to rationalize if it was good or bad, I was so envious. What if I could paint like that? What if I could paint with this freedom and not think about who's going to like it or not? Can you imagine what my paintings would look like? Maybe then I would be good enough, that arts would be good enough to be a profession. Maybe then it would be. So I started to ask more questions about abilities. I started taking people to museums. I started going out to eat with them and just soaking in everything I could learn about dementia, about their lives, and about building relationships. I started using new materials. Instead of using craft paper and crayons, I started looking at professional art materials and what people could do with them. We played with different things, with wax and colored pencils and different things that might be more traditional, but also throwing things off of buildings and putting paint in water balloons and just throwing them. This experience of the arts is often overlooked. Not so much what we're producing, but the experience of being together and making the arts was something that was value to people living with dementia. I want to tell you a couple stories about some people that I've met that have impacted my life. This is Robert. Robert and I used to love to make art together. At this point in my career, I'm now the manager of an adult day center, and I have about 45 to 55 people a day that I get to make art with all day. And this man was living on the street often, and sometimes in a care home, and he suffered from a dementia from drinking too much alcohol throughout his life. He was very aggressive, very angry, but when he was making art, he was calm, and the smile you see on his face is the only time we ever saw that smile. We made art with all kinds of things, with sticks we found on walks, random paper, T-shirts that were printed with .com instead of .org, free materials. All these things we would just rip up, deconstruct, put back together. And the relationships we built while doing this, all the learning I received from it, and the meaning that he gave me and the meaning that he had in his life for what he created. These things would not exist without him. So now we're looking at purpose. When we help somebody live in a nursing home, we're taking them out of our society. We're saying you're no longer worthy. You're not worthy enough to contribute back into society. So we're taking you out of your home and we're going to put you in this place because you're safe. The safety factor becomes our driving course. It's kind of like the test scores in school. There's this one thing we're focused on and we're missing the meaning that's coming at all sides. He also got very interested in his brain. So we started talking about the brain, all the different kinds of dementia. What does the brain look like? The doctor said I have this thing, and now I don't even know much about it. And we have plaques, these plaques in our brain. What is a plaque? I have plaques on my teeth, I have plaques in my heart, now I have plaques in my brain. What is that? And so many of us hear the word dementia, but we really have no idea what it is. And the medical field doesn't either. But what we do know about is how to build relationships. He went on to make art with me for the next 2 years. He made at least 5 pieces a day. He was so prolific. He just kept making it and making it, just like Vincent van Gogh did, just crank them out. And these bright colors coming straight from his head. Oh my goodness, I would love to be able to just come up with images like that and then paint them. Again, I'm in a point of envy. I really love this piece because if you notice, it's actually done on a piece of newspaper that is the death notice. On the bottom, it says death notice. So he chose this very specific newspaper to do this drawing on. I then took my practices and I started working with more colleagues, worked with people that were researchers, worked with other nurses and doctors, and shared with them what I was learning. So I was really good at making a team. I learned that in my art education as well. How do I socialize and work on a team? So I worked with these people and we began designing a course to exercise the brain and body through the arts. So this piece is about pouring art. not painting, but pouring art. And each of those colors represents a superfood for the brain. The brown is dark chocolate, my favorite. That's good for your brain. The green is spinach, the red beets, and the blue blueberries. How can we teach people about superfoods for the brain through the arts so that when they go home, they're eating those foods? Less than 10% of people live in a nursing home when they're elders. There's all these other people at home. How was I going to start to get the arts practices in homes? How do I keep educating people about what I've learned? After that point, I started working with more museums. And how do I get their artwork in museums? The Milwaukee Art Museum and many of the museums in Milwaukee, and I've been out to New York and many other different states and now countries to get this artwork up. It's not children's artwork. It's powerful artwork that is made from people that have a purposeful and meaningful thing to contribute. What is contribution? We all have the ability to contribute, but we're not asking enough of elders and what they want to contribute. We think it's cute they have stories to tell. And we think it's cute, like a cute little old lady. But this contribution, this is worthiness, this wisdom that we think that elders have, how are we asking them to contribute? After working with museums, I went on to attend the National Leading Age Leadership Academy, a graduate study program. I was one of 30 out of very many people that had applied. And what got me in that program was the fact that I was an artist. I was in this program with CEOs, CFOs. Oh God, you should have seen me the day that I showed up. I was like, how am I going to compete with this? But I showed up. I showed up confident because I knew what I had learned. I talked with all these CEOs and CFOs and all these leadership people that are running organizations across the country, and we shared ideas. And now I continue working with them, and we have this commitment to change the way that we care for people. This project I work with a group of 8 people in my program, and we had the challenge to attack a gap in aging services, and ours was value in society. How can we express and do a visual representation of people's value in society? So we asked people across the nation to donate one object. So elders donated objects, sent them in the mail, and then we worked with a group to sculpt this image through technology so everyone could watch it online. And so all these little pieces that you see on there are given by an elder, and then they wrote something about why that was valuable to them. Those notes then got read into poetry, and they were recorded by the voices of the people that donated them. So we had a visual, an audio, and also a very dramatic presentation of this piece. Now this piece, I wish I had more pictures of it, but before it was on exhibition, it was stolen, which at first was hurt by so many people. How adults and elders had given us these objects, like we were shepherds, we were supposed to keep them, and we had lost them. But the person that took this didn't understand the value of elders. And it wasn't until my way of looking at things as an artist for me to tell all of the people that this was the perfect ending to the story, that this piece was stolen, so we continue to see how we are not valuing elders. And we then redid the process. Now this process can be redone over and over and over again, and the lesson can be learned over and over and over again, but it wouldn't have had the publicity unless it was stolen. So it's a great project, one that anybody can contribute to. As I continued working, I began not only talking to elders, but thinking about the philosophy of aesthetics and the philosophy of art. Myself, in my pastime, I love to write, and I have these great ideas. I like to think I do anyway. And I write a lot, and I would talk to the people I was working with, and they would just investigate things. They weren't just looking at things and saying, I like it, I don't like it. They were really tearing apart these ideas. And I got to thinking more about what is it that helps them investigate. How can somebody with a cognitive impairment investigate something? What do I need to ask them in order to get them to be thinking that way? Because this was complex thinking. This wasn't some generic trivia game that we were playing. This wasn't arts and crafts time. This wasn't throwing a beach ball around the room. This was intense, complex thinking. And it was so fun, because we know that the arts are fun. When I started working on this, just like in education, the arts programs and creative programming and adult day services budgets were cut. So my position was eliminated. So here I had someone believe in me to hire an artist. I'd grown in this company, became a manager, went on to the leadership education. My leadership skills were excelling, and then the floor taken out from underneath me. How was I going to start again? Well, the artist and courageous woman that I am, I decided I wasn't going to fit in another long-term care facility, that it was time for me to do my own thing. There was more that I wanted to do. I started Gerostart Inc. just over a year ago. I wanted to teach people my practices of living more creatively, of learning. I have a commitment to teach other artists of what you can do out of high school, what you can do in college, and what it takes to create your own degree, to create your own major, to create your own career, and to also learn more about enlightenment, that each one of our enlightenments is different. How can we be more enlightened each day? Because that's what the elders have taught me, to be more enlightened. I created programs for artists and non-artists alike. I love this photo of the two men. We did some punching bag painting. We put paint on the end and punched the canvas. But this gentleman was a boxer, and he passed away just last year at 52 with cognitive impairment from boxing. The man on the left, who is also very young, is a philosopher, a theologian, one of my just favorite people. I've known him for about 5 years. Just so smart, and he's living with frontal lobe dementia, so he can think and remember things, but he can't communicate them with his words. And the woman on the left, who is a psychiatric nurse, she just loves to paint. She gives me great energy, and she's living with mild cognitive impairment. So these are some sessions with her. These are her paintings. Someone who can't remember, we paint with her, and then we go back, and she paints over what we painted the day before. And you know who it is hard on? It's hard on me. She gets to start over every day, and she just loves it. She has this great energy. So we paint together. For the non-artists, we do things like sanding. I like to find found objects because I don't have a lot of money for materials. So we like to find garbage and find different things we can repurpose. And this man, Paul, he taught me about dancing and about shadows. He stops me anytime I think I'm on the right track, because I'm so smart. I'm like, we're going to do this, and we're going to research this and evaluate that, and he just shows me how to dance. He looked at this tree, and he found shapes in it, and he's making his body look like that. He's stopping me and showing me and teaching me how to see again. These found objects we make into different sculptures. We take walks. We have other people that join us. He finds these different colors. We make art out of everything, every single thing we see. So it doesn't have to have this big process. It's right in the moment. It's right in the moment. I meet him where he's at. He's gone on to learn how to paint and draw with me. And this piece, which is much bigger in real life, is one of his favorites. He describes this piece as his brain. And when he describes this as his brain, I wish I could come up with some beautiful thing to say about it, but I think it speaks for itself on how he views himself. I started working with small groups. Once I was working one-on-one, I went into small groups. I worked with Vietnamese refugees who were blind and didn't have some limbs. So we started being blindfolded, listened to music, made art together. These were some of the pieces that came out of that. These are pieces I think I would hang in my home. They're so beautiful. So I started working with students, blindfolding them. And I started to think about what it would mean to have a global impact, not just Milwaukee. So I started working in Mexico and all across the United States. I do this exercise with many different people, all kinds of different cultures, all kinds of different age groups. And these lines where we think we're not an artist, they start to come to life. People start to have more energy. They start to use colors, and they start to live more creatively. They're learning more creatively, and the enlightenment I hear proves that we're successful. I work with groups of people that are in different companies, people that want to learn more about aging, people that just want to be more creative in general. And these pieces hang in our gallery. They might look like splotches of paint to you, but I can hear the music when I look at these. And I know the people that made them. We often sell pieces of artwork. That's how we get funded as a nonprofit. We make money off of selling our artwork. And some of these pieces are now hanging in different corporations in their lobbies, and they all come from the experience of the arts. One of my favorite exercises to do is to rip up art. I was with a group of students today. I can't remember. I'm looking at a group over here. Maybe it was you I was talking to. But I had an exercise when I was in college of making 100 different pieces of ceramic ware in 1 week. So all those of you that know anything about ceramics, that seems like near impossible. And it was. But I did it because of my art education. I was committed, disciplined. I was going to be the winner. I was going to do it, and I did. I made 100 pieces in 1 week. And the teacher took us up to the roof, and we had to throw them all over the side. And it was really about the process of making art, not being connected so much to what the product was, but to focus more on the process. I guess it was a great lesson. I did learn something. I'm still talking about it. But we make pieces also in my practices where we then rip them up and put them back together. Students love this. I give them a challenge to make the piece as big as they can, and they go over the ceiling. They go everywhere. I like to talk about art. We go to, like I said, we go to museums. We talk about what art is, art, not art. Do you ever look at a urinal or something and you think, oh my God, that is just not art? Well, when I do it with elders, they're always talking, and they have great, great investigative properties to why it is and why it is not. So currently, right now, I'm working in Mexico City. I'm working with adult day programs with the main objective to keep people at home and to use the arts to engage them throughout the day. We do things like tango dancing, which I don't know how to do, I'm learning, and going to different museums. And I just truly value what it has been like to go on this journey, to be able to be reflective with all of you today in your classrooms, and to think about how truly valuable my art education was and the support that I had from my teachers. It took me from being an artist that was painting in her studio, who was at the forefront of possibly being a starving artist, and applying my skills to writing methods, working with researchers, coming up with new concepts, coming up with new plans, and being successful. And most importantly, having the relationships that I do and being fully satisfied with the work that I do. I'm very proud of the work that I do, and I'm proud of my art education, but I'm very, very proud that I can finally say that I am an artist. I happen to be so many other things in life, but first and foremost, I am an artist. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of the Board of Directors of ArtSpeaks, thank you for attending this evening. I think Ellie and Chip and our student panelists did a wonderful job. How about a nice round of applause again for everybody? And I think they're willing to hang out for a couple seconds if you have specific questions for them. As always, you can check us out at artspeaks.net is the website, and we will be in this very room here again in September for our next event. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night.